So yeah, hello and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining our presentation. Can you hear me? Yeah. That's fine. Our presentation about automating IT incident workflows at Fraport AG. I think we are kind of competing against some cows and little ponies outside. But let's see how it's. So my name is Christian. I'm the Chief Data Architect at Fraport and trying to keep up with all this innovation in this area of data analytics. So I'm highly involved in implementing our data analytics strategy that nowadays becomes more an AI strategy for us. And we're gonna deep dive into that a little bit throughout the presentation as well. And to my left, I have Martin.
Hi everyone, I'm Martin. I'm IT Product Manager for our Business Intelligence platform. And a lot of the products you will see on the slides today is things that I own at Fraport and I take care of.
Yeah, so let's get started. And first, let me introduce you a little bit to Fraport AG. Some of the German folks are here, but not probably some of the other people don't know about Fraport. So who's Fraport? We are actually a global airport operator. So we own, build, and run airports globally all over the world. Our biggest and most important goal is, of course, financial successful and growing sustainable. That means we are heavily investing in targeting net zero by 2045, which means we have offshore wind parks. We actually have the biggest photovoltaics system in Europe installed along our runways. Since we are originated from Frankfurt, that's why the name Fraport is coming from. But I will, in a few seconds, show a map where we are involved in. So, and why are we talking about automation today? It's all about another target we have, or a goal, becoming employer of choice. I don't know if you heard the situation in Europe, especially in Germany. We are facing the challenge of demographic change. That means for us that more than 30% of our workforce is going into retirement within the next 10 years. And due to the tight labor market, we don't think that we can replace them appropriately. So automation in all kinds of areas is something we are highly investing in. It can be AI and, of course, a software-based automation. But we recently just established a so-called robotic center of excellence on our side. So besides software and better decision-making, we are looking for really autonomous systems, like autonomous driving or autonomous ground handling services and things like that. So we are a full service provider as an airport operator. At some point we have management contracts. At some, like in Frankfurt, we are doing everything like ground handling on top. So this is the map I was talking about. So it's around about almost 30 airports around the world. I think we just had a contract in Sydney, so we are present at at least four or five continents all over the world, heavily, of course, in Europe, but from Lima, which is growing fastly, over Antalya in Turkey. We expand our portfolio and airport operations all over. And the most you can see in the middle are some Greek airports. We have, I think, around about 15 now. Yeah, we just bought one last year again, so now we have 15 airports, except Athens, yeah, the biggest one we are looking for still. Some numbers, I just mentioned the 29 airports worldwide, but let's get more focused on the traffic figures. So currently in Frankfurt, we are ranked 6th in Europe with 63 million passengers per year. We are still a little bit behind pre-COVID. We had more than 70 million at that time, so we are looking for. But if you take a look at the number of the passengers across the total group, we are above 100 millions and strongly increasing the numbers over time. And one special moment I want to share with you, because we had a big celebration last week in Frankfurt. It's our opening of our new terminal, Terminal 3. So after decades of planning and construction, we finally released it. And I think on Thursday, we had the first flight from Emirates going from Terminal 3 to Abu Dhabi. So 1 week of pure celebrating and partying, something like we had here today maybe. So this was a huge impact, and it's a huge thing for us. So that's why we want to share the moment with you about this. So this is about Fraport, and now I hand over to Martin. He will give you some information about the use case.
Yeah, the use case, you read it on the first slide. It's about automating IT incident workflows. And as you know, there are a lot of things, a lot of IT systems involved to make all that what Christian told you happen. And to take care of, what I take care of is the analytics platform. And so our idea was to make our workflows easier and to use our IT systems also for our own issues, so incident management, to make the system more stable. And just to take a look at the analytics platform, what areas of products we have. So there is software for data integration, for processing the data, for analyzing the data. There's also software products for scheduling and for storage and to access the data. And all these products in this portfolio, they have connections, interfaces. There are often things that can go wrong. And so it's important to take care of that. And we wouldn't be here if SAS would be, and a lot of points of this in this architecture would be involved. So to make the process easier, we also thought to use SAS for that. And in the platform, at the moment, just to give you an idea what are our things, what we are currently focusing on. So we are moving at the moment from data warehouse to a data lakehouse architecture. So we are removing all the databases that we can and going more to a data lake approach for our storage systems. So SAS and Databricks cover together a lot of the areas here. As we talked about the whole conference here, AI is the new driver. So AI in all the products is important. It is also important to scale and to be flexible. So the data is 24/7 critical for our operations. So we have reportings that show our punctuality, that even show the aircrafts in real time on a map, that bring the data to the applications, even analytics data back to the operational systems. So it's really something, the whole analytics platform, it has to work 24/7. And of course, there can be some downtimes, there can be some issues, there can be corrupt data. So to make all that work, we have to have 24/7 someone there to care about that and to take action when something crashes. And this is a step that really has to be managed, because a lot of people that work on their daily business and develop that, they don't want to be called in the night. So you have to manage a good incident workflow. And just to give you an idea how we made it in the past and how we are doing it in the future. So of course we have an IT service management tool. We use ServiceNow for that, and we have a few teams that work in the area there. So the first contact point when a user recognizes there's something wrong, an application is down or data is wrong, it calls our IT service desk. And the IT service desk is 24/7 available, and it takes all the insights that they get. So they ask a few questions, they protocol that in ServiceNow, and start the workflow there. We also have a team in India, which is doing our 24/7 operations, but not for all the products there. But it's also a team that can take the incident and work on it, try to fix it, try to work on a solution. And then kind of the third level is my team with the data engineers and the people who build the stuff. But we are only working 7 to 5, but also over the weekend, and try to resolve incidents if there is something on it. And you can imagine the people at the service desk. It's a hard business. It's often younger people working there, or it's an entry in IT, and a lot of the times the people are changing there. So it's not always the best insights you get, because of course they don't know the details of our applications. So this is kind of what incidents we get there, like daily report not sent. See all the incidents. Okay, we have like 30 daily reports we send per email, and a lot of reports on a daily basis, so you can't do anything with it. So the first thing you would have to do is to call the guys and ask follow-up questions. This is also a good one. Data is not current. Which data? We have like 5,000 tables. Which one is it? And this is my personal favorite. Timestamp is not current. So thinking of every table having a few timestamps, it's like 20,000 points to look at. That could be complicated. So what do we do with it? But sometimes it's even good. So I don't want to say that it's everything bad. Sometimes we really get good insights. So for example, no data is displayed, but compare it to an incident that we already had, and then there's really the name of the report. Like in Power BI, it's the SAC monitor, so something we know, something we can directly look at. So in case you get this incident, it takes like a minute and you know where to look. Also here a good one. This one is mentioning traffic overview doesn't have updates. Traffic overview is a common name for us. We know exactly the report, and in the description there's also the name that it's because of landing aircrafts which have an issue. And it also says when this started, which is also often an important information. So the service desk did a good job there. But yeah, how can we make it always the good job, and how can we make it better?
Yeah, the big question right now is AI the answer to everything? Are we throwing AI and agents to every problem that we have, or do we differentiate between them? So that's the big question. I mean, we are all living in this momentum. I think this was a kind of situation last year at the World Economic Forum where Mark Benioff had the quote that from this time on, managers don't just lead people, human beings, but also artificial intelligence agents, let's say, yeah. But how far do we go? And for us as a company, 20,000 employees, yeah, we have to think about the journey, actually, the AI journey, and how to provide this technology throughout the company. How does our Gen AI or agentic AI journey looks a little bit like? Yeah, I mean, it's like the story becoming Fraport GPT, becoming Agent Fra. So when we started a few years ago, like most of the companies, maybe worldwide, they started creating a kind of clone of GPT. In Europe, you have to deal with the Data Privacy Act and things like that, and sovereignty. So you start doing it by your own. So did we. It was a lower level entry, but not much change needed for the people. It was an offering. They can use it. They start using it. They created content and things like that. But as you move on this ladder and you increase the level of autonomy, the need for change in an organization is increasing significantly. You know, so now we have to go very simple steps in this ladder until we get to autonomous workforce and things, because you have to get all people involved and a lot of change and a lot of not only change but transformation has to be done to be able to really rethink processes, rethink ownership, responsibilities throughout an organization. That's why we are slowly moving up the ladder, and we are about to enter level stage 3, let's say AI chat agents, and we see all the co-pilots here throughout the conference. This is for us stage 3. It's kind of like very isolated, domain-specific areas and things like that. And it will take some time to really get to autonomous workforce fully at the end. Yeah. And the use case Martin just mentioned is located more here at the workflow assistant level. So the question is, do we need Gen AI? Do we need agentic AI at that point to tackle this problem? And we see it like workflow assistants. We use it not only for IT incident, we also have like noise complaint management. Yeah, we are an airport, so we have a lot of citizens around an airport. They are able to fill in for complaints about noise, up to 20,000 complaints per month, and you have to automate this. Yeah, and this is a typical use case as well, where what we call workflow assistant that takes those complaints, tries to classify them, maybe figure out is it really a complaint, maybe it's a threat. We have a lot of people who are threatening the airport because of this noise and things like that. And this is typical what we call the workflow assistant area. And then we move on. We started to implement our first AI chat agents to have more long-running or more complex tasks to support on. Yeah. What we see, or I as an architect, I see that due to the fact that we have agentic AI coming, we will see a few new enterprise architecture layer to get introduced, yeah, into enterprises. So the red lines and the red layers you see here is what we expect, what we are facing in the next years, what we have to answer. So the blue ones have been around all the time. You have an infrastructure layer, you have the data layer, of course, your application and business logic. But now with Gen AI and agentic AI, you start thinking about the semantic layer, which is not just a data catalog to find the right data. It's more like a knowledge graph. It's who's responsible, what are the relations, what are your entities in your environment, what are the processes. So it's way more than just data cataloging. It's knowledge graphs and relationships and modeling those things. And they used to be in the data layer a little bit, but now with agentic AI, since they are giving the context for everything an agent is doing, you have to pull it out and think about to really modernize it and get it more professional. And you see the Viya icons on the left, where we place SAS Viya at the moment inside this architecture, meaning the enterprise orchestration level. Someone has to take care, especially at workflow automation, what has to be done at what point of time. So SAS Viya or SAS Intelligent Decisioning is something that we can place there. And then there are other fields like providing foundation models. There we have, for example, other technologies to do that. Yeah. And there is no one-size-fits-all solution. I mean, at the corporate like Fraport, you have a lot of business department, you have a lot of groups. You will find all kinds of technologies trying to solve the same problem. Maybe what we see and what we believe is, even though they have different starting points, like one is starting in the SAP area, we have SAS, we have Microsoft, they are now moving towards each other more, so the functionality starts to overlap, and I believe that over the next years we will see some consolidation on this, and maybe some others are rising up, some new technologies, but at least what I believe everybody's now claiming for being the UI for AI, being the agentic studio, yeah, AI agent studio and things, and that's my job actually to take care of that, get a big picture and see how do we use what technology where. At some points, like SAS Intelligent Decisioning, you are still on the back-end automation where you have open architectures, APIs, you can easily, automate workflows, but as an airport, we are used to build and construct buildings that runs 40 years, That's how we build airports. That's how we used to build software in the past. So we have running legacy systems who are not open for this agentic world. And there you need, for example, other methods to really being able to automate on that, like robot process automation and things like that. And then we have this level 5 agentic AI that seems to solve all the problems. Maybe they could, but they are not that cheap at the end as well. Yeah, so there is a trade-off you have to deal with. So I think there's room for all kinds of technology, for multiple technologies and approaches. And at the end, it's a question about balancing, of course, cost, level of autonomy, and risk at the same time. If we take this use case, that's not a high-risk use case. It's not a danger to body or soul. So the risk level is quite low. So we can say it's very deterministic at the end with some LLM and Gen AI in place maybe, so we can balance and choose the right technology. But I think there will be a portfolio on our side to choose the right one for each specific task at the end. And Martin is now going to show you how we solved it at Fraport.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. So let's deep dive into the solution and get a bit more technical on it. And so the first idea, as I said, we wanted to automate the first things that we always did manually. So what is the first thing you get when you get an incident? Is the description good enough? We saw it today, and this is something where a large language model can easily help, because in ServiceNow we have a lot of data for it. We have a description, we have instruction for the people who get the call, what they should ask, and they write a report on it. And comparing this with LLMs is quite an easy task, and to get inside what they maybe forgot, or what they could maybe ask as a follow-up question if they know the context of the application. The second thing is, if that is good already, did we maybe have something like that before? Did we use ServiceNow to protocol the solution? And that is even something that we started to do in the last 2 years, very extensive, to protocol really what we did on incidents. And now we are participating from this. With the data we have, we can let an LLM summarize solutions to similar incidents, and just use that as the first starting point. And that's where before that you would have to go manually in ServiceNow, check what did you do, or have always a knowledge base where you do it, and now you just get it out of the box. This is kind of the high-level architecture on it. I think the biggest message there is that we tried to do everything in SAS, and it worked. So we have a SAS Studio flow that gets the data from ServiceNow, and then it triggers SAS Intelligent Decisioning, and there is a decision with all the logic. We have built it like that to use SAS Intelligent Decisioning really in the center of that, to also get an API call that we can use and build a small UI for it, so we can ad hoc analyze things. And now with the MCP feature for the SAS Intelligent Decisioning, I think it's a good approach to also open that to other agents then, and to integrate it in the whole big picture. Yeah, at the end it needs some LLM. We use OpenAI there. It has data access, and it can send emails back to ServiceNow. Yeah, just some ideas on how we structured this in SAS content. I think it's always interesting to know how people use it. And for us, as you see on the first level, we have folders for analytics, for applications, for data integration. And the new part here was then decisioning. And under decisions, we structured it for the business department. So IT operations was one of the use cases where we started using intelligent decisioning, and we also have use cases from our marketing team there. And then we don't have so many subfolders. We just put all the objects there and the testings there, because the UIs in intelligent decisioning, they show only the content that they can read. So it's not like you have to scroll 2,000 things. It's already good organized if you put all the objects in one folder. I think a good insight. Yeah. We also deploy inside the Viya environment, so we stay in Mars here. Just to have it really easy to work with, so we don't have to have a separate container runtime or things like that. We just wanted to stay in the Viya environment and use what we have. Yeah, this is kind of a small screenshot of the decision. I think one key takeaway could be, as we have it in Mars, we added an extra API key as a step in it, just to make sure that not every logged-in user can execute it. So there's just another level of authentication there. And we used a lot of Python. So the purple ones here are Python nodes. So I built a lot of this, and getting data from APIs and integrating it was really simple to do in Python. So yeah, we just used what we had. Yeah, one step of this in Python, just to give you an idea how it is done, is we just fill a prompt with variables, and then we execute that and send this to an LLM. And yeah, it's kind of giving the input that what is the description, what is the service level info, this is what the service desk should ask that is documented there, and the description of the service that is pre-selected. And then we say, yeah, please check that, and yeah, give us some insights what they could maybe missed. Yeah. And I also just asked the LLM to answer in JSON so I can parse it. Kind of a hands-on approach, but I know there are different ways to make the LLM answer in JSON. But it was also working, and it works even fine, so it never crashed because of an invalid JSON, for example. Yeah, so this is an example of what we get. So we have an incident here. It's about Power BI. The data is not current, and you see here that the description is even not having so much details. And the decision was run there, and it answers to the question: is the incident description sufficient to work on it? And it says no. It's not asked if it's Power BI desktop or online, which is one of the questions that they should always ask when they have an incident for Power BI. And they should ask which report is this, and they didn't do that here. So we can directly answer this back into the incident. The service desk gets it again. They can call again and ask, hey, I have some follow-up questions, and that just speeds things up. So we don't have to wait for the second iteration with the second level support. You just save some minutes. And if you imagine that over the night, this is the time it takes until someone wakes up and starts working. And then it already has some better information there. This is the second example here. So this is an example again with the airport map where restricted areas were not shown. And here is really good details. So it shows us that the red fields are not displaced, which is the restricted areas. Yeah, that is a data issue at the end. And the decision got it, that information is great. We can go in the next step. And this is collecting the relevant keywords from the description and running a search on ServiceNow. So it's not like we have the data exported and staged. So we just use the ServiceNow API, and we generate a filter for it. And then we summarize the results and pack that into a description. And this is what we then send to the people who work on second level or third level with this incident. And they already get some ideas what to do. And here in this example, you see that we had this incident twice before, the last 2 rows, and the result was restarting an interface. And this is something they can then just do. And even in the next step, we can have an LLM or an agent do it automatically if we got the intent and the idea what should be the next step. Okay, let's just summarize that shortly in some takeaways for you. So I think the infrastructure setup is something that if you want to do it, start early. You have to get everything running. If you don't have Viya or Intelligent Decisioning set up already, the platform in SAS, you can do everything in SAS. That's a good thing. So as I said, with a decision, a UI, a flow, and an LLM, you can do it. Also important is the development process. You have to have a good development process when you use Python, that you can debug and that you can run it, that you find your way to do it. Sometimes it's not so easy to always save and retry. You have to find a good way to be flexible and to directly see what you changed. Yeah, and you have to be ready to use prompting skills. So prompting skills is really something where you can make an effort. You have to try around. You have to see what works good. So you have to know what you're doing. So the technology is there. The success depends on the skills and the data and the preparation. Yeah, as I said, we have some next steps planned. So you saw it was a SAS Studio Flow that gets the data. We maybe want to go to real-time processing with the webhooks from ServiceNow, so there are points to integrate that. Of course, you can always improve the quality and the consistency of prompts. It's an LLM, so it won't give you the same answer every time. So we also see that when we retry things with the same incident, there are points where it asks yes, then it asks no, and responds no in the next execution. So it's not a 100% thing when you use it like that. But I think, as Christian said, in this area we are not in a risky situation. So when it's wrong, it doesn't really have a real big impact. It just can have a good impact, but not really a bad impact to do it like that. Yeah, and then we want to enhance the user interaction a bit and moving it to the next level then with really autonomous agents. So I can say we have it in production, but it still feels a bit like a prototype. It's something we do from the IT for ourselves. So we will see how long it takes until it's really a production system there. Okay, then thanks for listening, and if you have questions, you're welcome.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just raise your hand. I'll bring the mic around. No questions. The cows took it out of everyone.
Okay.
Everybody's ready for the party.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.